All right, so today we're going to dive into this really profound text that asks a question we've all probably asked ourselves. How do you find meaning in a world that, let's be honest, can feel pretty empty sometimes?
And right out of the gate, it hits us with this huge question, one that feels, super relevant today. I mean, we're all about what's tangible, right? What we can see, what we can measure. So why on earth would you go looking for something you can't even see?
And the answer it gives? It's really something. It says this whole search, it isn't about getting another car or another promotion. No, it's about finding the one thing that's still standing when everything else, everything, is gone. It's all about what lasts.
Okay, so let's get into it. First up, we need to understand the problem this text is trying to solve. It calls it vanity. But, and this is super important, it's not talking about being arrogant or full of yourself. It's talking about that feeling, the one where you feel like you're running on a hamster wheel, just going and going, but getting absolutely nowhere.
The text paints this picture of like a relentless treadmill. Think about it. You work your tail off, you hit your target, and what's your reward? Well, it's just the next, even bigger target. It's this constant churn, right? And it never feels like you actually arrive anywhere satisfying.
And we see this everywhere, not just in work. I mean, just think about your own life, your childhood, high school, that first job. Back then, it felt like forever, didn't it? But now, they're just memories. It's all so temporary.
And for us living today, man, this feeling is on steroids. We're just getting blasted with information. I mean, literally, we see more stuff in a single day than people a few centuries ago saw in their entire lives. It's wild.
But here's the kicker. Here's the real critique from the text. Has all that info, all those facts and figures, actually made us any wiser? The text says, pretty bluntly, no, not at all. We've got more data, for sure, but we don't have a clue what to do with it, what it all means.
And this is where we get this amazing metaphor that just perfectly captures how pointless it all can feel. It's like shepherding the wind. Just picture that for a second. Trying to herd the wind. You can feel it, you can see the trees moving, but you can't grab it, you can't control it. And that right there is what it's like to spend your life chasing things that are, well, just empty.
So, okay, if our own individual efforts feel like we're just chasing the wind, then what about when we all get together? What about our big systems, our institutions? Can they fix this thing that feels so broken deep down?
And this next part is so interesting because it shows this massive gap, right? On one side, you've got the promise, all the amazing things we try to build our institutions for, things like justice, security, knowledge. But then you look at the other side, the reality, and that justice gets twisted into corruption. That security ends up creating chains, and that search for knowledge, it can just leave you feeling more empty than when you started. And the text is basically saying, look, this isn't a new problem. This has been happening forever. The quote mentions Babylon. Now, Babylon, that was the pinnacle of human achievement back in the day, the greatest empire. And what happened? It collapsed. So the point isn't about some ancient city. Babylon is a pattern. It's what happens when our biggest, best systems just fall apart. And the text says that pattern is still happening right here, right now.
All right, so our own work feels like a dead end. Our big systems fall apart. So where does that leave us? For a lot of people, there's one last hope. Knowledge, wisdom. Surely that's the answer, right?
Well, this is where we hit this incredible twist, this paradox. The text tells us about someone who got it all. He became wiser than anyone, but instead of feeling satisfied and peaceful, that wisdom was like a spotlight, a really harsh one. It just exposed how broken everything really was.
So get this, it's almost like a rule. The more you know, the more you grieve. The more you understand, the more you see the cracks in everything. So that knowledge, it's not a comfort. It can actually be a really heavy weight. And that question, it's the pivot for this whole text. If work is a treadmill, and systems collapse, and even wisdom brings sorrow, then what in the world is left? What's the alternative?
This is where the text proposes something, well, pretty radical. It says the answer isn't out there. It's not about grabbing more stuff, more money, more information, more influence. The answer is found by developing a certain quality in here.
And I love how it defines this search. It's not just about thinking. Think of it like this. There's a huge difference between reading a book about swimming and actually jumping in the water. One is just in your head. The other involves your whole body, your whole being. That's what seeking with the whole heart means. It's not just intellectual.
It's about your desires, your will, everything you are.
So what does that actually look like? Well, the text breaks it down into this kind of three-step process. First, sincerity without performance. Basically, be real. Don't fake it. Second, surrender that leads to obedience. You have to let go of the driver's seat. Stop trying to control everything. And that surrender actually guides what you do next. And finally, living undivided. You know how we're pulled in a million different directions? This is about gathering all those scattered parts of yourself and pointing them in one single direction.
Now, let's be real. This is not an easy path. It takes some serious guts, a real commitment, and you have to be willing to let go of a lot. So you gotta ask, right? After all that, what's the payoff? What's the promise that makes it all worth it?
This is my favorite part. The text totally reframes the whole idea of suffering on this journey. It says the pain isn't meant to destroy you. It's like surgery. Yeah, it hurts, but its purpose is to remove the thing that was slowly killing you all along. It gets rid of all the illusions, all that empty vanity, so something new and real can finally grow.
And we need to be clear about something. This isn't about being some kind of hero, gritting your teeth and powering through on your own strength. It's not that at all. It takes courage for sure, but it's the courage to let go, not the courage to conquer.
Instead, the text presents it more like a destiny. Like this deep, deep longing for meaning is already planted inside of us. It's just part of being human. But it's our choice whether or not we actually act on it. The seed's there, but we've got to do the work to help it grow.
And this brings us to the absolute core promise of the whole thing. What you find at the end, it's not a concept, it's not a doctrine or a list of rules, it's an encounter. Here's an analogy. It's the difference between reading a Wikipedia page about someone and having that person walk into the room and sit down with you. That's the jump from an idea to a presence, and that is what changes everything.
So think about the journey we've just been on. We started with that feeling of emptiness, of shepherding the wind. We saw how our best laid plans and systems can fail us. We even saw how wisdom itself isn't enough. And through all that, the text offers this other way, this wholehearted search. It's hard, no doubt, but it leads to real transformation. And it all boils down to this one final, incredibly personal question, for you and for me.